your birth rate? No.
No, because, I mean, you can,
No, well, give me something. Tell me something. Damn it.
but this is what it is. The devils. That means the devil and stuff like that. So you're not gonna get
Gnostic. That means they're no worse.
in any further in the conversation. Because people have been trained that belief systems equal knowledge and spirituality. But those who promote that know it does not and know it never did. Issue is that those who have been promoting it are actually part of the system of the demonism that the people thought had to do with Allah, Jesus, God, and Buddha type thing. This is where your problem is, and this is why this thing is so strong, why it's so ingrained. What gives the people who rule the power they have is because the power they have is actually in the victim. And people think they know the Lord better than anyone else. Who's really the Lords of London. And that's the real truth. And because we've been trained for so many generations to think that what we've been doing is spirituality and religion, you know, we're creatures of habit and we got egos. The conditions tell you everything. However, people don't equate that. They'll say the BS is everybody else, like we ain't in the soup. In the world, and that other world, we catching hell too, like everybody else. You know everything.
Ice.
And then they put it on the
I
children
said the ice cream.
too. Of course it never works, but this is where our
This
problem
wood
is.
is not keeping this cold.
And so really,
It was ice at one.
contrary to what most people think, we don't have a lot of time to keep playing around with this stuff. So people know how things really work, know that the platform of the Kabbalists are being dismantled. And therefore they're accelerating the one-system operations on all levels. And people who are naive to what's really going on are going to get injured the most. It's almost like somebody getting in a boxing ring thinking it's a picnic. So when somebody throws a blow, even a light blow, they'll get more injured because they're not ready for it. They just don't believe that when you get across that rope, they're going to try to take your head off. Because in the gym, they didn't do it like that. Type stuff.
Yes.
And you can't tell them nothing because their beliefs are so strong. Plus, they all got personal relationships with the divine order. You got cell phone 7. No, really, and adults really believe that kind of stuff. And then they put it on their children. Of course, it fails. Then they get mad at their children because their children ain't believers. Right. You know, the whole, and in reality, there's collateral in war. Consider most of them will be sacrificed by their own will. You know what I mean? The issue is to try to get as many who are willing to deal with reality to save themselves and their families.
I'm trying to get your attention because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where how it's doing. I'm trying to go live.
Oh, they on live.
Live in living color.
Live. Right here. Here we
So one of the things I'm going to do.
are. Do you want the world to know this or just yeah?
No, go ahead. Yes, we're going to share it with everybody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Because the best way, really, is not unlike we did the other day when we just asked honest questions.
Okay, I'm going to.
You know what I mean?
Let me see.
Casually, then the truth comes out. More than it does when you fix a syllabus. You know what I mean?
So are you going to be doing Q&As tonight? Am I going to be filming?
Yes, that might be a good idea.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Are you going to be mostly back here? That's what I want to know.
I'm going to be mostly back there,
Because
and so what I'll do, I'll get my Cat Williams wand,
That's my cat.
This fat Wayne's wine.
Cat runs all over.
I'll be having you run all over the place chasing this thing.
Will it work? Okay, so we'll start from, okay, here we go. I'm here ready. I'm going to introduce them. Y'all know the real elephant here. We clap. I'm being the producer right now. Yeah. We cheer. Anybody does cartwheels, does the cartwheels. I'm sorry, I'm just being silly. But really, if you want to, you can.
Because we talked earlier, you know, about this, and I mentioned, you know, for the people to study what we had given them, you know, which is House Joint Resolution 192, but only for reference.
We'd like to welcome you all to House of Reawakening Minds, and our lecturer, instructor for tonight is the illustrious Grand Sheikh Taj Tarik Bey.
Cheap sneaks. Many of you have this on your documents, but we're not going to necessarily go over the whole thing. We're going to go over parts of it.
Microphone.
We're not going to go over the whole thing. We're going to go over parts of it. But one of the things that I want to do is show relationship and also show you the danger of our people not knowing truthfully the history. They'll say that. As soon as you say history, they start talking about a pyramid in Egypt. And then when the IRS comes after this stuff, they don't have any remedy whatsoever because they don't even know current events. And it's damaging because we do it with ego and with pride, like we're doing something great for ourselves and our children. Because you need the background. However, most people don't know how to tie the past to the present and start fixing things, which is what we need to do. All right? Absolutely what we need to do. I want to go shortly into House Joint Resolution 192, only for reference points alone. Hold on for a minute, please. And I want to read a short paragraph which is sort of like a preamble before I get into the Tropicon speech, and that would be just above it. And this is an abstract from lesson book, Protocols of Liberty, civic lesson number 14A1. And this is to take you back in history to show you cause and effect, and also to reference remedies that we talk about today. And the major remedy for nationals and citizens of any government is to enforce the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. The universal remedy for quote-unquote saving nations in the political and upon the political realm and platform is called nationalization all over the world. One of the tools that have been used to steal and to rob people and nations is denationalization as a tool. Not often discussed, just exercised, are we clear? Now, is an excerpt from the United States Congressional Record of March 17, 1993, in volume 33, page H, 1303, which you are familiar with. This is the Tropicon speech on the floor of the House in reference to actually actions initiated by James McFadden. Pardon me, Lewis McFadden, I apologize. Lewis McFadden was a senator who was also suing or structuring to sue many of the operatives in government, including all the members of the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Now, cutting through the chase, when he went to visit his daughter in New York, they poisoned him. You don't hear too much talk about that, and we don't have to tell you why. You know why. Anyway, James Tropicant, who they also murdered a couple of years ago, and like most times tell people was an accident, stuff like that. The speech that he made was actually in reference to cause and effect in relationship to the issues that Lewis McFadden had brought up in 1932 and 1934 on the floor of the House. But he did a synopsis of the issues. But I also recognize that a lot of people, when reading the synopsis, appear to read past things. And when you talk to them, the concepts of what the truth is that he's exposing is not comprehended by them, nor how it relates to them. It's just interesting information. And some of the questions that we've been getting from people around the country and off the shores too, indicate, even with a lot of people we've shared this with over years, because we get this on a flash drive. This is a brief that's extracted from the lesson book, but it gives them keys of reference. The questions that they continue to ask demonstrate this, and we were talking about this actually late this morning too. I fell asleep, she fell asleep. People clearly do not comprehend on a large scale the distinction between privileges and unalienable rights, inalienable rights. Inalienable rights, right? Thus, when you say or speak of birthrights and you hear some of the questions that they ask, you recognize that honestly they really don't get it. There's a concept or a general reflection that comes from the questions that many people ask that make them think that exercising an unalienable right, an inalienable right, that they think that that's a legal process of winning something or winning a case, not knowing that has nothing to do with government. Government has only one thing to do, and that is to secure and to protect your inalienable rights. Governments have no rights to give. They only exist for the sheer purpose and function of securing the rights that already exist with people. And so you also recognize that most people, and many of our people, do not understand how government works. And they have false expectations from people that claim to be government, and therefore, at the same time, persons who are claiming to be government, many who are not really government, have been robbing and raping them in the name of sovereign powers exercised only by legitimate government. And you'll find that the people very often don't even have the knowledge to recognize when that occurs because they can't make the distinction. They don't know the distinction line, which means they don't know basic civics. And so we're injured on many fronts in our communities for lack of knowledge in relationship to government, civics, birthrights, privileges, where they originate, how they function, etc. And so some of these things we go over redundantly when we see that it doesn't compute, and of course we're creatures of habit too. So I'm going to go over a few things, make some notes, and then we're going to ask some of the questions that continued from the other night and continue from this session. Because we want to start, you to start bringing remedy to yourselves. and knowing the distinction between rights, privileges, and what inalienable rights are distinguished from privileges. And what has been happening is that they've been infringing on your inalienable rights, and people have been reluctant to exercise inalienable rights, thinking that they need to go to a court to exercise them. Simply because someone that claims to be a government personnel doesn't recognize their own and inalienable rights. And they start dancing around in these forays trying to buy rights from somebody from some UCCs or something like that, which indicates they don't understand. And so we're trying to redundantly fix some of those concepts by just continuously sharing information with you, trusting that you study and that you'll bring information share. We will collude and bring that information together so that the people can develop and begin to protect themselves. However, the colonists, i.e. the colonizing Europeans, know that the people are waking up, and so they're accelerating their unum sanctum activities. And so it is very important that our people begin to understand that they need to stop talking about racism and start talking about unum sanctum. The race argument is a diversion. Altogether. And of course, when one is trying to fix things for real, you have to deal with what's really going on, not what you've been trained to believe that's going on. All right? So I'm going to read part of James Traficant's speech, but when I make points on certain things that he said, certain phrases, I'll tell you to write them down because you're going to go over them in your spare time, but you're also going to go back to the round and to the chancel. All right? And then you're going to do some research because I'm not going to go into all of this. But I'm giving you points so that you can go back and do some scholarship and take responsibility and understand that these people aren't playing with you, and these people also that relate to you as your community leaders and your religious leaders have a responsibility and had a responsibility to inform you of these things and not to divert you into belief systems while you get injured. While you're being preyed upon. That's P-R-E-Y. While you're being preyed upon. Because they are actually part of this system. They're not separate from this system. They're absolutely part of this system. And people who have thought that they were not, sad to inform you about the truth, is that there is no separation of the church and the state. The church owns the state. And the people need to get over their egos and over their misinformation and start dealing with reality and start saving whatever they can save left of their families and of the little bit of wealth that the Romans didn't take already. And then reclaiming some of what they have hypothecated. And then coming together in love and trying to stabilize the situation on the planet for humanity and then start building civilization back up again. All right, because they're doing a scorch and burn type thing. Scorched earth policy. All right. Now, here is Congressman James Traficant's speech addressing the House of Representatives. For study, actionable functionality, and for law analysis, please do not hesitate to use a yellow highlight marker to note the primal related sections of the speech which will give credence to the nature of and the use and application of the words and position of reversioner in this particular instance. Analyze how reversioner invokes or initiates a reversion or reclamation of a state in relationship to the misrepresented and misused political functions of the corporate state actors and persons in their colorable usages of the corporately created birth certificates. Now, of course, you all know it's not limited to the birth certificates, but we're saying the birth certificates because most of you are familiar, at least to that degree, that the birth certificates are bonds, bank bonds. However, the same principle actually applies to marriage certificates, driver's licenses, and all other instruments issued from the corporate states, subdivision agencies of the United States Corporation Company, which is not a country, it is an occupational political body, politic. Among the other pertinent matters included in Traficant's speech, do not fail to recognize the legal remedies noted concerning the stated functions or function of discharge. So write the word discharge down. Although it's not a subject matter, we want to go into that because it's clear that some of the questions that people have indicate that while they're reading these congressional records, many of them don't get it. They really don't. As distinguished from one's compromised legal capacity to pay, quote unquote, right, pay, in matters of debts alleged under the bankrupt, insolvent, executed, and dissolved U.S. government. The discharge versus pay remedy should also be taken into serious analytical consideration. Are we clear? Now, United States Congressional Records, March 17, 1993, and I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs, but I'm going to skip because you all have this on your flash drive, and many of you have had this for years. But I want to make this emphasis because we've been dealing with this stuff as of late. Speaker, Representative James Traficant Jr., Representative of Ohio, addressing the House. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees. Write down the word trustees, get used to it. Understand what it means, how it relates. Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity. Write down the word entity, don't forget it. In world history, the U.S. government, we are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved. Write down the word dissolved. By the Emergency Banking Act, write that down. March the 3rd, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent. House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June the 5th, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacity of all, write down the word all United States governmental officers and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists in name today, in name only. Is that first paragraph confusing to anyone? So as you can see with the first paragraph, before you go any further, most of our people think that the United States government is a legitimate operating entity, government, and sovereign at present, and have been paying taxes to these people, etc., and also have been thrown in jail by these people, and also have been judged by persons who are members of this platform, and have no knowledge that all of their offices have been dissolved. Are we clear?
Clear.
And are not operatively aware that all operative entities claiming that governmental authority are frauds, impersonators, and criminal. And those who are in partnership with them, who haven't informed you, are in collusion with them. And those who have been going back and forth within your communities, talking about freedoms and rights and marching and praying and appealing to these people, have been actually consciously deceiving you. Are we clear? knowing that you will not get remedy from these people. Are we clear? However, in law, a right inalienable is not a right coming from them. It's a right that's already yours. It's up to you to claim it or not. Because it can only be claimed and reclaimed, if you get the point. It is not given, it is proclaimed. Are we clear? It doesn't go from government or come from government. However, in the international community, for those nationals of the planet, people who honor their mothers and fathers are called people of nations. And they maintain the customs and traditions of their ancient mothers and fathers, and they know their bloodline, and they do not call themselves outside of their bloodline. International laws are in place to secure their rights in spite of what is known as colonial government operations. Are we clear? And one of the committees that deal with these issues is called the Committee of 24 on Decolonization. Are we clear? As a point of issue, logically, that is one of the subject matters that should have been and should be in the conversations of our communities who have been abused, and our people who have been sitting around talking racism instead of the subject matter that they should be discussing. And logically, if people who've been marching and praying around don't inform them, and they themselves don't read, and they themselves deal with issues and don't deal with the subject matters that they themselves are claiming to deal with, they're not aware of what they should be doing, which makes them incompetent. And at that point, logically, people who are claiming to be government, recognizing of people who don't read or who have the mentality of minors, they simply continue to take advantage of them in the name of government, and their personation stands strong because the people don't know that they are not who they claim to be. Particularly on top of that, when the people who are complaining aren't even claiming to be who they really are. So you have a combination of color, or what you call colored people, clashing and arguing with each other on issues that neither are qualified to actually deal with. Are we clear? And so we're trying to at least take our responsibility and fix our side of the nation, because the ones who have been taking advantage of you know these things but have had the upper hand. And logically, the rule in civilization and in the enforcement of unalienable rights, which means divine rights, which would mean birthrights, the responsibility of every man and every woman and every child is to confess their own. Knowing that our people don't know that obligation, they're usually looking for someone else to do a program for them, not recognizing that they're responsible to this. And so we have to try to get that across to them also. I want to go into a few paragraphs down, and I want to make some points of interest to you. And keep that in mind about the discharge and the pay. And keep this in mind, this is congressional record. So when any politician tells you that they don't know what this is about, you know, they're only talking to someone they assume that also don't know what it's about, and they know that most of the people are miseducated, and they're testing to see if you're out to lunch. And if you indicate that you are, they will continue the BS. And of course, the leader guys in your community aren't going to go there, because most of them are beneficiaries of the fraud, and they usually have a skull and bones agreement, and usually claiming to be some religious leader guy who's helping their people, you know, and they're getting some tax break because of Allah or Jesus or Prophet Muhammad, when really they're getting a tax break from skull and bones for maintaining the fraud while the masses get raped. You know, that's the real truth. Gold and silver were such a powerful money during the founding of the United States of America. So he's talking here about the organic and legitimate republic, distinguished from the democracy platform. Are we clear?
Clear.
The founding fathers declared that only gold or silver coins can be money. And for those of you who might have any reservations about that, go to the American Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, to understand what he's talking about. All right? That's important. Since gold and silver coinage were heavy and inconvenient for a lot of transactions, they were stored in banks, and a claim check was issued as money substitute. Write down the word substitute, get very clear on what that is. That's a comfortable way of saying counterfeit. People traded their coupons, write down the word coupons still, as money. And understand there's a distinction between as money and money. If you make that mistake and you have a legal problem, understand that you're going to get injured. So you better start getting clear on these things and changing your language accordingly. Or currency, quote unquote, write that down. Currency is not money, write that phrase down. But a money substitute. Common man's language, currency is not money, but counterfeit. So that means whenever you exchange with it, you must also qualify. Failure to do so, you're held to the charge of returning gold without no compensation, which guarantees you perpetual debt and that you will be in perpetual slavery if you don't understand that concept. Redeemable currency must promise to pay a dollar equivalent in gold or silver money. Now, you must know what a dollar is. We're going to get into that later, not now. A dollar is a weight and measure that's derived from Yakimthala, which means a gold coin, by weights and measures. Are we clear? Federal Reserve notes make no such promises and are not money. Write that down. Federal Reserve notes make no such promises and are not money. Get that through your head. Because if you don't understand when you're arguing contracts and when you're arguing debts in a court system that you're calling a court system, which is really a trade venue, understand that you will 90% of the time lose. As soon as you start talking about, well, I make my payments and the money that I had, as soon as you go there, this is why they keep kicking your keisters. So we're taking you to the congressional records so that a lot of people say, well, Taj Guy making that stuff up and that's that Moorish stuff. No, this is the law. And it's about high time that, you know, we kind of woke up, like for real, for real. Now, a Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government and not money. Write that phrase down. Because you need to write some of these phrases down to really understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with any of these instruments. All right? When you forget these things when you're out there in the world, they're happy. Because every time you forget these things, you've accepted the liability that they're transferring on you. Are we clear? Now, we're not discussing at this time how to discharge the liability or to reject it. We're trying to show to you that the liability is already assumed upon you unless you make some claim to the contrary. And they're acting accordingly with you. And therefore, you're assumed as a debtor in every action that takes place between you and any corporate municipality, agents, personnel, state agency operations, and these are private corporations that are actually bankrupt who have been operating privately, pretending to be public officers with the people who don't understand government and who themselves are not nationals, so therefore they don't have protection. And this is the platform that you're operating with. Are we clear? It ain't racism. I'm explaining to you what's happening. All right? So a Federal Reserve note is a debt obligation of the federal United States government and not money. The federal United States government and the U.S. Congress have not and have never been authorized by the Constitution for the United States of America to issue currency of any kind, but only lawful money, gold and silver coin. It is essential that we comprehend the distinction between real money and paper money substitute. Translation is it is what? Imperative and essential that you comprehend the distinction between money and counterfeit. And all Federal Reserve notes are counterfeit. Just because they've been allowed is because the operators are criminal. Not that the private commercial paper they're issuing is legitimate or ever was. It's just that the people are convinced that these people are really the quote-unquote positive participle government, and therefore have accepted the liabilities of these people as government and given them authority that they don't have, and they have used your resources to set up agencies to rob you and to create false flags to keep you in need. Are we clear? That's their whole operation from top to bottom. The only reason they exist is what I just said. And you need to know that, and you need to accept that, and you need to start doing something about it. Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. Write that down. And it'd be well if you write them on separate lines so that you can keep your head clear. And as me and Dr. Naila have been talking, these things have to be in your mind, and they have to be the canvas upon which you're thinking whenever you're dealing with any legal or lawful matter, or economics, or finance, or alleged debt, or mortgage, or foreclosure, or court case. Are we clear?
Wow.
When you forget these facts, 9 times out of 10, the person who's having a counterclaim with you, who knows this, will beat you up mercilessly, and you will lose. Not because, I did this stuff and it didn't work. No, you didn't enforce the Constitution. That's why we keep losing. And we're behind the 8 ball, and we come out into the race limping. That's what's happening with us, incompetently. Familiar is not knowing. You need to know this stuff. It needs to be part of your community culture. It should have been cultivated in you from 3rd grade. However, since it has not been, we're suffering this, all right? So Federal Reserve notes are unsigned checks written on a closed account. Federal Reserve notes are an inflatable paper system designed to create debt. So people are working for Federal Reserve notes thinking they're accumulating wealth, and it's designed to create debt. This is why the national debt keeps expanding. But people who can't count or can't use basic geometric thought can't recognize that. Although the experience and their conditions in the communities reflect it strongly. Create debt through inflation, which is DA law. No, not U.S. property. I'm not your property. I'm not surety. Yes, you are. You're Joe Negro. No, I'm not. Oh, you can't sign that free name on that paper.
Hey, yo.
Meaning that they can't use the bonds if you do this.
Right.
So what happens is, do you need to capture the bonds? And what happens when you start doing this, it kills the bond. If it's locked up in the safe, that's locked up in the safe, that's locked in the other safe that's in Switzerland. You don't need to capture it. You just choked it. It's only a matter of time to when they try to use it that somebody, yeah, I know we got the ship containers here, but we don't want them on the T-bonds, y'all. So now you know why them ships are sitting out there in Los Angeles in a long port? Now you understand why that oil tankers were sitting in Philadelphia last year for 2 months dripping oil off when they really can unload them in a day? Because they weren't accepting UST bonds. Now you understand what the reset really means? Them UST bonds are dying, and anybody caught with them, their economy collapses. So what's happening, nations have to get together in secret, so they need Mr. Trump, with all due respect, to jump around, keep a dog and pony show going on, keep y'all Boy, he said some stupid stuff. Boy, he's out to lunch. And really, they're trying to buy time, and they can only buy time, not by years, but by months and days.
Yep.
Because they're bankrupt, and ain't nobody doing them bonds.
Nope.
And that's been backing their debt since the Civil War on your back, Moors.
Oh.
Go ahead. I like this class. Y'all thinking.
All right, so brother Yusef, he had hung up, but
Go ahead, good brother.
he had him and brother Cujo, and he had introduced to me a document that was put on out by the New York Times by J.E.L. Jones, and it was called the Moroccan Front, and it was talking about, it says in the first line, it says the Civil War arrived in Morocco February 1862. And I was like, whoa, that's the first line? So you gotta think like Lincoln was inaugurated March 4th in Pisces of 1861 at noon. So then you think April 12th of 1862, April 12th of 1861 at Fort Sumter was when a little squabble had happened. Then you got just less than a month later, a moon cycle later, May 10th, 1861, that's the German Sina Dia, right? So now when you read this document, you find out that the Sultan, Sidi Muhammad IV, had sided with the Union and had disavowed the Confederacy in this thing here. And that was done September 23rd of 1863. So they was doing this stuff so short and so quick.
So now look at that, and then look at the Emancipation Proclamation and the set up of the Freedmen's Bureau and why these people never got 40 acres and a mule.
Yes. And you was right. He was trying to save.
Exactly.
Both of them, but he couldn't do it.
Isn't it obvious?
Yes.
Isn't it obvious? Two things I want to bring to your attention. You already got it. I mean, most of you all do, but this is mostly for the listeners, right? So, as an example, I, James Warren Bay, a living sentient man, hereby repudiates and rebuts all unwarranted hypothecation activities alleged against my estate. This is an adverse claim statement in an attempted foreclosure. See? And refute all or any abandonment claims made by the foreign and misrepresented persons doing business as Wells Fargo Bank and Alia. I do therefore publicly and privately proclaim and declare my divine and natural rights to my corporal and incorporeal hereditaments and affirm, notice and claim reversion to my estate. I also claim all rights to any profits or benefits generated by the surety instruments upon which my signature was placed, and thereafter used by Mr. Sloan at Alia and deemed for profit in violation of the laws that govern securitization. So what happens is, so anybody that buys that so-called mortgage and then try to come at him with their promissory note, it's dead. Because he retains the right to do what? Remove his signature, because that generated the whole transaction. Period. So how many people abandon that right, which is called adverse claim of defense?
Everybody matches.
Exactly. So now we understand the Clearfield Doctrine differently, don't we? And they're talking about Latch's time period, and what the Clearfield Trust Company representatives are really saying, y'all guys ain't government, y'all can't pull that on us. You can take your McDonald's shoes and go down there with them people who think that human beings are crayons and take their stuff, if you ain't taking ours. That's why the Clearfield case became doctrine in 1942. They're operating on a knowledge of real government and who these people really are. And so people who don't know these are terms, and that they have been made the dead pledge to back these terms properly because they're deputy knights for the popes of Rome under the unum sanctum policy, working for the Round and the Chancel, then they take them to Chancery Court and take their stuff. Because they don't understand birthright. Go ahead, I see you. Go ahead. Well, see her button glowing?
Just one other.
You got batteries in that button?
No,
Just ask me.
just one other thing. In terms of the birth certificate, you have 8 to 2 weeks to claim that body that you've given birth to, because the mother is listed as an informant as opposed to mother.
Yes.
So
now,
you got to claim.
let's back up so we don't create some other confusion. What makes you obligated to claim that certificate that is theirs, that is not yours in the first place, that they have a copyright on, lest you have sold your baby? When in first place, all you needed was to do a birth record, put it in the Bible, and put it in your Quran.
Right.
You need to go tell them any daggone thing.
Not a thing.
Right.
This whole idea that you got to keep on, I need to see, and can I have a number so I can give myself a number that you know that I got a number, that I got this estate, and you know that's my bike.
Right.
Let me tell you about my bike, what kind of tires you got on it,
That's my baby.
or how much you got in your bank,
Right.
or how much your cousin generates, how many peanuts you got in your garden. Now, if you want to give them jurisdiction, that's like on you. But guess what happens? When you make a pact with them, then they got a contract.
Yes.
Then they start making liens against your estate. That's supposed to be allodial.
But it's still a unilateral.
Yeah, but let's look at this.
It's unilateral, though.
Exactly.
It's not-
Is that lawful?
No.
Isn't that unconscionable?
Yes.
Yes.
So if people don't understand an unconscionable contract and they don't argue it, they've abandoned their right, didn't they? Isn't it back to the same thing Drawley said, bring my people back into the constitutional form of government?
Islam.
Enforcing our constitution,
Yes.
which is a covenant that keeps persons who claim to be government in check.
Yes.
And does not Article 6 of the Constitution demonstrate that all the judges of every state are bound to these principles?
Yes.
And any laws or any rules that they make or any constitution of any corporate state to the contrary, notwithstanding,
Yes.
do the people hold them to that? No, they don't. Well, see, the judge said I can't tie my sneaks together on Thursday, so they sued me and took my sneaks. That's why I'm standing in the snow with no sneaks. What the swell? This stuff continues. These people keep abandoning their rights and then trying to argue rights. They keep giving their rights to the European and then complaining because he uses them.
Yeah.
Let's go to the charge d'affaires. And this is back, and this is redundant, but I want to make this point to you all. Because what we're trying to do is redundantly show you principles so most questions that you ask, you will answer yourself. And it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate your questions, but many of the questions indicate a lack of knowing or lack of understanding, or that you don't get it yet. And so we've gone through some of these things because we really want you to comprehend this stuff. We really want you to understand and comprehend this stuff. In other words, you've got to be able to stand on the truth and right on your own merit. And not because we said so. Now, I want to remind you all, do me this. Can you go to chapter 47 and read the parameters of the Moorish Empire? Give him the mic if he doesn't have it.
Here the mic.
Alrighty, it's mine. Chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. 1. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. 2. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. 3. His father, Ham, and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. 4. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. 5. In later years, many of the brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. 6. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. 7. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean.
All right. Now, so you see in the Holy Quran, the parameters, the general parameters aggregate of the geographical territories that comprises the Moroccan Empire concludes the whole west coast, the east coast of South Asia, which we know as Tamari, Kemet, across the Great Atlantis, including North, South, Central America. And why did the prophet say including Mexico? Because when he says central, that includes in the southern part of the north. Why did he emphasize that? Because he's sending you a key, because that's the center of civilization. You see? So he's telling you it comprises, and then you have people claim to be grand sheikhs and sheikesses of the Moorish Science Temple of America keep telling people that Morocco is only on that side. And that the treaty doesn't have anything to do with us today. You see? Now, let's go to the charge of the affairs. And this is 1906. We ain't even talking ancient, right? This is a letter to the charge of the affairs. Read this together, you all. Citizenship of the United States, expatriation, etc. Page 459. You all see that? And so they talk about citizenship, aren't they? And expatriation, right? And you know the United States is a corporation belonging to the what? Jesuits. Do you all recognize where the line is and now they're naming the country? Spell that, what you all see in the middle of that page.
Morocco.
What's that say?
Morocco.
Say it again.
Morocco.
Say it again.
Morocco.
What's the subject matter at the top?
Citizenship of the United States. Expatriation.
So what happens when you have these leader guys who keep on pretending that they don't know these people are Moors and act like there's no political relationship whatsoever? So let's read the charge of the affairs comments. Mr. Phillip charged the affairs to Mr. Root, Secretary of State, August the 3rd, 1903. When was the old Canaanite temple established?
1913 AD.
So this is only what? A handful of years prior, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look what this corresponding conversations are about. American legation, Tangier, August the 3rd, 1903. Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country, see what Obama was talking about? Are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship. What did Ali say to the Moors? Claim your name and your religion, didn't he?
Yes.
All right, so let's look at this. Page 460, citizenship of the United States, expectation, etc. There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. So that means you're supposed to be aware of these political forums, aren't you?
Yes.
Because if you want to define citizenship and you don't know these principles, are you in order or are you out of order?
Out of order.
By means of which citizenship in this country is defined, but as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions that it is not the desire of the department to call for report on such lines, which means they don't want to talk too much on this thing now, it's getting delicate. I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. 1. Now y'all can read, and I want y'all to read this with me, and then I want y'all to take note of the law terms, and also I'm going to have one of you go to the law book and read these terms. 1. Read it, y'all. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the laws pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. That means you got to prove that you're not Moorish. So they ain't got no nationality card for the Moorish card or not, you got to prove that you're not.
We be going hard trying to prove it.
Now, what's ipso jure? Now, notice this, y'all. I want y'all to pay attention to what ipso jure means. Write that down, y'all, because this, study. You don't come to the House of Reawakening Minds with a sleeping pencil. Ipso jure. Almost there. Right there. Go around the corner. Right there is a space. Now pay attention to this, and then after he reads ipso jure, we're going to the next sentence. We're all going to read this together. But I want you all to pay attention to this even so far. When people play dumb about who these people are here and try to act like there's no relationship between the United States and Morocco. And that they don't understand what nationality is. And also when Europeans or persons in the agencies say, I went to them and they don't want to recognize my nationality.
It's so good, got it.
Like, no, you're the one that don't get it. They already know.
Islam.
Islam, go ahead. Ipso jure.
Ipso jure, page 962, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1038 of the PDF. Ipso jure, by the law itself, by the mere operation of law.
Stop right there. Say that again.
By
Ipso
the
jure, by the law itself, by the mere operation of law. Now, can you dance around that in law?
No.
Is that as absolute as you can get in law?
Yes.
So as the law stands, by the mere operation of law, these people are Moorish subjects.
Period.
And they gotta prove
Yes.
that they're not.
Dude.
And if they can't come up with some foreign government that can prove that they're citizens of some other government, as the law stands, they're Moors.
Islam.
What's your nationality?
Moorish American.
Why are you Moorish American?
Because we're descendants of Moroccans and born in America.
And who's been operating at Morocco? United States. And Drali told you they what? Stole your birthright. So let's look at the divine warning by the prophet for the nation. And then look at why Drali say the 14th Amendment, which is the Naturalization Act. Naturalization Act is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. So let's read number 2 and 4 and 3 here, y'all. 2 and 3. Come on, y'all. Moorish subjects lost their nationality only by becoming naturalized in or protected by another country having treaty relations with the Moorish Empire. Is that confusing, y'all? So what happens with the 14th Amendment when you get naturalized? You gave up your birthright. So these marching Negro leaders pumping that civil rights with the 14th Amendment Negro Act, thinking that you was becoming citizens, were actually denationalizing you. Is that complex, y'all? So now when it comes to your nationality and your birthright, what happens if you don't declare your nationality in the public forum? As far as they're concerned, you've abandoned it. And what are they doing? They created a what? A Cedars Trust and a corporate entity, which is the all capital letters under the 14th Amendment Naturalization Act, set up by Ulysses S. Grant, and created bonds and been running the United States Service Corporation Company, pretending it is the government and a country since the Civil War, and that's the source of their incomes. And that's the T-bonds, and that's the bondage. Now you see why Drew Ali said declare your nationality? Now you see why people who've been benefiting from your ignorance have been trying to act like the people of the United States don't know nothing about Morocco and you're standing on Morocco?
Islam.
Charge the affairs. Are we clear?
Clear.
And then people on your side of the nation is trying to talk about that treaty ain't got nothing to do with us. They're conversos.
Yes,
That's the
they
ones
are.
they choose as trolls.
Shills.
Exactly.
That's coons.
Christian black coat.
Yes. Let me see if I got something in here. I don't think it's in this one.
Looking for the divine warning. I wasn't sure if you was in the divine warning.
Excuse me, say that.
The divine warning. That's what.
Yes, go ahead, read that. Read that.
Oh, okay. Which part you wanted me to read as far as dealing with the? Well, I can read it all actually. All right, here we go.
I love my people.
Okay.
Hold on, let me find. I got it right here. Alrighty. I love my people, and I desire their unity. And my, oh, by the way, y'all, I'm reading from the Moorish literature. All right. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asked for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name. Because
He's thinking principles aren't, isn't he?
Yes.
And he's doing it in a universal fashion, isn't he?
Yes.
It's not clubism.
No.
That's international in its scope, isn't it?
Yes,
That's
it is.
Rotarian in its complexion, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Continue, please.
because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. Well, that was because it was saying that any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principle, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. Not Negro, black, coloreds is actually what he's saying there.
Exactly.
The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word, quote unquote, colored, deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by this, well, by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens.
So it's very clear that in a modest manner, he dismissed that 14th Amendment, didn't he?
Eloquently.
Now, once you do the research, you'll see how dangerous it is, wouldn't you?
Yes.
But if you didn't take it serious or you didn't study, you wouldn't recognize what he was leading you to down the rabbit hole and then pulling you back up at the same time so you can see it for yourself. Now, in Executive Order 11490, King Alfred, there's silent weapons for quiet wars. Above, I won't go into it for the sake of saving time. Those are all organizations that are infiltrated and have controlled leader guys. Note at the appropriate time to be designated.
Can you read them for the benefit of the...
Silent weapons. Executive Order 11490 King Alfred. Infiltrated organizations under surveillance. 1. The Black Muslims. 2. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. 3. Congress of Racial Equality. 4. Uhuru Movement. 5. Group on Advanced Leadership, GOAL. 6. Freedom Now Party. 7. United Black Nationalists of America. 8. The New Pan-African Movement. 9. The National Urban League. 10. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. 11. Committee on Racial and Religious Progress, CORAP. Note at the appropriate time to be designated by the President, the leaders of some of these organizations are to be detained only when it is clear that they cannot prevent the emergency. Working with local public officials during the first critical hours, all other leaders are to be detained at once. Compiled lists of minority leaders have been readied at the National Data Computer Center. It is necessary to use the minority leaders designated by the President in much the same manner in which we use minority members who are agents with central and federal. That's conversos, y'all. Remember the conversos. And we cannot, until there is no alternative, reveal King Alfred in all its aspects. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. Read that line with me, you all. Minority members of Congress will be unseated at once. This move is not without precedent. in American history. Attorney General. Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. Pay attention to this paragraph, you all, because they're telling you political realities and truths. Preliminary memo, Department of Defense. This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy. Read this, y'all. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage. Let's read that again, y'all. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage, and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. The greatest concentration of the minority is in the Deep South, the Eastern Seaboard, the Great Lakes region, and the West Coast. So as you can see, these people who have been trained like little rabbits, thinking that they were brought from someplace else, are bound to this continent, not just this country, to this continent by heritage.
Islam.
Chapter 47.
Islam.
Islam, good brother.
What does it mean by bound to the continent by heritage?
So what is
What is
heritage? Go in there, heritage, go in the dictionary, law dictionary, heritage.
People want to know.
Of course, hereditaments too, huh? Yes. Go ahead. And the point that I'm making to you all is when you have conversos acting as trolls and shills for the European trying to dismiss this information and this position, once you go into the Europeans' own documents, even though they have covered up a lot, it's still enough for any scholar to find out that you've been lied to. And also that your so-called leader guys been hiding this information, so you already know that they have an agenda. But if you don't know this information, you get caught up in the emotions of who you like and who you don't like, or what club you belong to. You get the whole point, which is why they keep throwing this club game around. You get the point, to keep people off key. When everybody knows you Moors, everybody knows this land's Morocco, know that the United States is a private corporation occupying Morocco, and knowing that you're bound to this continent by heritage, you can't go no place else. That's why they can't deport you.
Lock you up.
So we're dealing with bound to the continent by heritage. And may I ad-lib part and parcel?
And can't be what?
I mean,
Get asylum in another country. Because this is their home. Read heritage.
okay, heritage. In the civil law, every species of immovable which can be the subject of property, such as lands, houses, orchards, woods, marshes, ponds, etc., period, in whatever mode they may have been acquired, either by descent or purchase.
So now these people are bound to this land by descent.
Right, and no one can change your descent.
Exactly.
Unless they in the law.
Thank you so much.
And might I just add one last
Go ahead,
thing?
man. Hit
Okay,
it.
because if we just go bound to the continent by heritage means you're part.
They're
parcel.
bound. So what does bond and bound mean? That means you are locked in. You cannot be separated from it. It's your inheritance.
So on a first a schoolroom level, the part and parcel and
Now you understand why they
bound.
modified that. Parcel means land.
Yes.
Now read in the dictionary parcel.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that part and parcel is
Yeah,
with
come
the
on,
mother
man.
and the umbilical
Go ahead.
cord and child.
See how you putting those things together?
Yes.
But you're putting it together for people who don't always have available to them this information.
Islam.
So it becomes theirs. Go ahead.
Okay, you said parcel, right?
Parcel.
I'm almost there.
Parcel. You got that right. It don't mean belief.
P-A-R-T. Okay, hold on one second. almost there, brother Taj Tarik family. All right, here we go. Parcel. The verb parcel is to divide an estate. The
You're
noun,
talking estate, aren't you?
yes.
So
Now
if you're
the
talking estate, and if somebody's administrating over the estate, you're talking trust, aren't you?
yes. Noun form of parcel, a small package or bundle of joy. The word, it doesn't say of joy, I added that. The word parcel, quote unquote, is not a sufficient description of the property alleged in an indictment to have been stolen. The prisoner was indicted for stealing, quote, one parcel of the value of 1 shilling of the goods, end quote, etc. The parcel in question was taken from the hold of a vessel out of a box, broken up by the prisoner, held an insufficient description. A portion of land, that's another one, I'm sticking with the substance, a part of an estate.
Exactly. So we're talking land and estate. What's that have to do with somebody's belief?
Nothing at all.
So you're part and parcel of this said government and must live your life accordingly.
Yes.
Does that not mean that we're supposed to enforce that Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land? And the judges of every state are bound thereby?
Yes.
And you're bound to this land by birthright and
Yes.
heritage?
Yes. Enforce the Constitution.
And these people still trying to act like they don't know these people are Moors?
Yes.
Here you go. Let's look furthermore in Executive Order 11490. Political introduction. And this is the operations of Europeans in occupied Morocco under King Alfred. Political introduction. 1954, it was well recognized by those in positions of authority that it was only a matter of time, only a few decades before the general public would be able to grasp and upset the cradle of power. For the very elements of the new silent weapon technology were as accessible for a public utopia as they were for providing a private utopia. Public and private again, you see? So what are they fearing? That the computer systems that they already had would eventually get in your hands and you would find this information out. The issue of primary concern, this is their concern, that of dominance. What is the dominance? Inquisition hegemony, the unum sanctum policy of hegemony that's falsely called white supremacy. To keep the masses busy when it's the hegemony of the unum sanctum policy. The issue of primary concern, that of dominance, revolved around the subject of the energy sciences. And it says sciences, don't it? So the prophet brought you more science so you can go back to the principles, not belief, to science. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on earth. Repeat. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy. And social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. So you need to know the truth about your nationality and your birthrights, don't you?
Yes.
Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primal energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping.
That's why we're studying.
All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. See why they keep pumping beliefs for the dumb masses? They give them beliefs and the world works on knowledge. Therefore, mathematics is the primary science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. Now, see the methodology of the bookkeeping. Now you understand the double stock trust and disallow everyone else from creating one. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue: who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, now you understand 1954 when we talk about the German-Dutch praetor, Dwight D. Eisenhower. What did he do in 1954? Shut down consular courts.
Yes.
So that you would not have a proper venue to hear any issue brought before the praetors. In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues, quote unquote, were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals that do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. See where abandonment comes in? This is the manual that Europeans operate on. What part does this say prejudice? What part does it say racism? They're dealing with an ignorant people who act like damn animals and are treated according, and they're looked at as beasts of burden, and they mad because they won't use their intelligence. They've abandoned their estate. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, see the new world order? Peace and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, wealth, of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. Those are the people who now call themselves white supremacy elite. Get a girl, Mike. She want to sing.
I'm gonna sing.
She want to sing.
I gotta turn the mic on. Just recently, 30 Knights of the Pope have decided not to go back into those halls in what we call Congress and stuff like that. So I'm just looking at some of the things in terms of what's changing, because
Yes.
at least 45 presidents and CEOs of corporations have resigned, including, you know.
And just before I walked down here on your TV was a woman who was a CEO for 22 years just resigned. And guess what? It's dominoing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's dominoing. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be doing what? Preparing our people to take their places amongst the affairs of men.
Right.
And they looking to these people for JOBs that they ain't gonna daggone get.
Hands on horse.
Because they ain't got no JOBs.
They ain't got nothing either.
And I just got a text.
But I mean, all I'm saying,
Now-
all I'm
That's the
saying
90
is
minutes
that
you
it's
shut
crashing down. You know, it's supposed to crash down on us, but it's also crashing down on them too, because
Because it's your estate and they cannot hold it because the world, because remember, the issue of their dealing is the resources, because the people are disallowed to handle money. So they have a Cedars Trust and a Sister QV Trust.
Yes, they do.
This is what the CUSIC number on the Social Security is for. It's a routing number for the 12 different orders of the Franciscan Brotherhood designated as Federal Reserve regencies,
A through L.
But
broken into 12 parts.
But I'm also saying, though, by Moors even speaking up, it's sort of reversing some of the
Exactly.
effect of all this that's going on, you know? 'cause-
So what happens when you speak up? What does that present in public? Is that not an adverse claim,
Yes.
which is a rebuttal to a claim of hypothecation?
Islam. Islam.
In the rule of a state, a trust law of a state, when the heirs of an estate speak up competently, what is the rule in law around the world? That the executors, the administrators, or the fulcrums of that state must release that estate to the people,
Yes.
to the heirs, to the beneficiaries.
Yes.
So what happens when you declare your nationality?
Or adverse claim.
In your proper person,
Yes.
in solo proprio, sui juris. So now these bonds that they've been moving around the world in a name that sounds like yours become toxic, don't they?
Islam.
Isn't that logic, cause and effect?
Yes.
Is it complex?
No.
However, my advantage, your advantage, our advantage is to teach someone who doesn't know,
Yes.
to create an avalanche,
Islam.
to kill the bonds. You don't have to touch them.
Right.
They were created outside of your hand, and they must be killed outside of your hand,
Islam.
because it's an abstract. But that the people believe in it,
Yes.
in faith,
Santa Claus.
in fiat.
Santa Claus.
And when the faith dies, the fiat dies.
Yes.
Therefore, it is only the trust that gives it life. And when the trust dies, the instrument dies.
Yes.
And the world has lost trust in the U.S. corporation company operatives who've been pretending since 1861 to be a country. And now that they have computers, the utopia is being revealed. Go ahead.
Because every time,
You see?
every time the family declares and proclaims their nationality, just to assist with the wisdom here, once again, Matthew 21, 12 through 13. And I think this line right here is the line out of these 4 lines. Because Mother Delilah, you said, so when people, you know, are clear and they make their proclamation pertaining to their nationality, what they're doing and being, and I'm using these words for the sake of the scripture, being gentle as doves, but wise as serpents. So in Matthew 12, it says, Jesus entered the temple courts. Brother Taj started out with the crown temple. So Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all.
And he was
who were buying and
disputing
selling
with the
there.
doctors of the law, wasn't he?
And it says he overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. So
Yes.
those are the banks, bench and bank.
Yes.
So that's telling you right there, you're dealing with.
So Jesus saves, don't he?
Yes.
Justice saves. Justice.
Yes.
That's
Justice.
what he stands. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But it ain't like they thought, is it?
No. Not like they were misled to think.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Islam. Oh, you want me to
Oh,
finish?
excuse me. Dr. Nine?
I know. I thought it was done.
Oh, anyway. We can ready to close out. But I want to point something out to you. Now, look at this, you all. So, black according to science means dead. And what do they do under unum sanctum? Declare the people dead at sea until proven otherwise. That rule came from the round, the chancel. And all the states that they've been robbing the people of have been moved in executure in chancery court. The palace of the kings. You see? And so the attorneys who are deputy knights for the popes of Rome have been enforcing the dead pledge, which is really the mortgages and the straw man, which they finally got established after they killed the Freedmen's Bureau over a period of centuries. And that's what you've been suffering from. So now that you know, your job is to do what? Start reversing this stuff. Are we clear?
Clear.
Now, since with the dead pledge, the mortgages, they created promissory notes, didn't they?
Yes,
And they have a double stock trust for them and disallow you, right?
yes.
But nobody can stop you from creating a trust for yourself
That'd be a
and
violation.
removing your stuff from their claims by hypothecation that they claim,
Right.
right?
Right.
And when they make a claim against your estate, send them to your what? To your fiduciary. And you know, it was that car, I'm saying. You was riding up the side of the building like this on the sideways, and the car was just, and it didn't have any brakes, it was going sideways, and we're gonna take all these sneaks for them. Well, see my executor.
Islam.
Right.
What's the position we're at?
Huh?
What's your position we're at?
Fiduciary is the administrator of your trust. And since the people didn't want to listen to Noble Drawley, and everybody undermined him, that ain't stopping you from carrying out the law. What did Drawley say concerning the law? He says, if nobody else carries out my law, you be that one. And so, the straw man was set up in that Cedars Trust while you were declared dead in the mortuary, in the mortgage, dead pledge, the contract was dead. You were the pledge, but they used a promissory note to create a surety bond. And it matures, a promissory note matures in 9 months. 1 second, 11:59, before it hits 12, it morphs. It stops being a promissory note and now is regulated under rule of contract law and becomes a surety.
Right.
However, those persons who have been doing these dead pledges on these people on their property for gentrification purposes have been bundling these promissory notes within months of receiving a signature and securitizing them and then selling them to pooling companies and then making you a third-party contractor with the closing, renegotiating the contract and then tell you that. And securitization is unlawful, is it not?
That's right.
It is.
So now, when they come trying to foreclose on you, because if you went to a closing, how can there be a foreclosing? Isn't that what you said, Dr. Naila? How are you going to have a foreclosing when you had a closing? This is a contradiction.
Right.
We talking about jumpers? Time jump? So, since it's all confusing, and since they violated the rule of securitization and surety, and since they converted the promissory note in their ledgers, because they have a double stock trust, so therefore they converted the debtor that they alleged you to be and took your surety instrument, your promissory note, and then put it on their asset page of the bank. And got paid by the pooling company. Then, as Spofers acted on your behalf as your trustee, and then made you a party to a pooling company that they didn't tell you about. Now, they got paid and you got a debt, and now you promised any expenses in any transaction you're now liable for. So, they had taken the promissory note from the debtor side and put it on the asset side. At that time, you funded the alleged loan.
Right.
So, what do? Since they were dishonorable and have misused the promissory note, what you want to do, since they want to try to call the loan, why don't you call the note?
Islam.
It's your note?
That's right.
Yes.
Now listen, this is what's happening. I'm really pissed. Since, Freddie, you misused the note, then we're going to foreclose on you. And we want you out of the house next week. Right? Well, let me tell you something. Stop all negotiations on any instruments in relationship to my estate, which includes the property that is designated corporately in your instruments as such and such an address and such a street, such and such a block, blah, 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 blah. I want my note back.
Yep.
You stop all movements, all negotiations, and any profit you have, I want you to bring the ledgers, I want you to count for it, and I want you to bring me all profits too while you're at it.
All assets.
All assets, and I'm removing my signature. Now, you and your boys can get off my porch. Oh, you didn't do it? Well, here's my adverse claim and my proclamation. I'm in my proper person. And this is Morocco. The United States is a proper corporation operating on my land. You're a foreign agent. Let me see your nationality card. Watch them like, well, we're going to be back tomorrow, though. We wait till next time we come. Call the note. With the pending your exercise of adverse claim to remove your monograph or signature from the note. Now the bank operators have just been what? Defrocked.
They've been trumped.
Because the only reason it has value is your signature, because it was converted from the debtor side into the asset side of the bank. As soon as you did that, the note is dead. Now, you, prior to 1913, loaded your title.
Yes.
Now, you didn't ask for the warranty deed, did you?
No.
And whatever instruments you have, 9 times out of 10, you didn't convert it back to an allodial title, pure, perfect title?
Clear.
Then you abandoned that right too, didn't you?
Yes.
Right.
But if you set up a trust, and you set up an estate, and what, you waiting for the grand chiefs who ain't going to do it, or you going to do it?
Right.
And then you have your paper, hey, my stuff is in the state. What are you talking about? Now, if you're the holder in due course, and you move to court, that you said to court, which is the palace of the kings.
Okay.
So you telling me this is an oligarchy operating here?
Hey, what?
An oligarchy.
I'm walking.
Oligarchy.
O-L-I.
That's what the court is. So, let me tell you what I want you to do. I want you to bring me all your ledgers, both of them, and your boy over here. Is it Freddie Diamond, whoever he is, whatever.
Yes.
I want all assets that was generated by my note
Yes.
that you have on your asset side.
Yes.
So if it's on the asset side of the bank, and I'll see your name on it, that's my name.
Yep.
And for you to move this court, you have to have the promissory note and the mortgage. Has it ever been separated? Well, no. According to the stock market,
Yep.
their promissory note was sent to a pooling company.
Got him. 90,000 times.
Can you introduce that into the record right now? Well, right now, see, Judge, we need time and see what's happening. You know, we want to postpone this and we come back and this, whatever. And see where we're going with this, y'all? It's understanding what has taken place from the Inquisition Unum Sanctum policy down to the church, the temple church, to the chancel, to the attorneys, to the dead pledge, to the mortgages, to the straw man, and to the theft of your birthright. Reversion of estate. To be holder in due course, you must have the original wedding signature mortgage and the promissory note, and they must never have been separated. And if they got any other names on them, they call the longes, aren't they?
Yes.
And they create some longes, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And it's an encyclopedia of names on it, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
From here to India, to Belarus, to Brazil,
Belgium.
and all these are third parties. Did you sanction them to do this for you?
Nope.
So, just one thing and then we'll get ready to close out. So, and this is why, again, in the issue of reversion, let me see what we have here. Reconveyance. And that's why this type of statement if you comprehend what it really means. This was actually used, so this is why. Now, I received your correspondence. This is where they send them 192s in the mail, talking about they going to sell the deed of trust. I received your correspondence instrument through the United States mail, so you're already setting them up for mail fraud. See, particularly when they got that, what's that?
Pitney Bowes.
Pitney Bowes red stamp on there.
Mail
It's
fraud.
not physically affixed. It's already mail fraud. Coming from the name of the representative, whoever it is, right?
Yes.
Bank and Mortgage Service Company LLC. Of course, that's the date because that's the date this was used. Referencing matters concerning a debt, a loan, a mortgage, or a sale of my inherited or private property, etc., and representing yourself as a creditor, having first-hand knowledge in this matter.
Islam.
Apparently, the threatening and misrepresented instrument was an unsigned and unidentified notice of default and election to sell under deed of trust. Nevertheless, be informed that the misrepresented instrument issued by the representative profiteer operating through and from your corporate entity is accepted for value. However, I did not find your required check enclosed with that correspondence. I'm sure that as a trustee or FOFR for the account, not my account, the account, because that's theirs. Spit. You are aware that you should have included the check and any other profits generated by my estate or property and accordingly placed the same in the mail along with that incomplete correspondence. You are hereby authorized to correct that failure or oversight immediately and are hereby notified and instructed to forward the missing check and other profits to me as soon as possible. That's how you're supposed to be talking.
All assets.
Well, see, my McDonald's job, and see, I'm working at Wendy's now. No. You can sell all the peanut butter sandwiches, the stale ones too. Back, are we clear?
Clear.
This is understanding what this is all about, coming from the Spanish Inquisition to Unum Sanctum, from the Round, which is the church, from the chancel, which is what? The executor,
Yes.
to the attorneys who pretended to be attorneys, who were deputy knights of the Pope of Rome. And remember the commercials, that's those Negroites who want to be Negro, black, and colored, that claim to be Constantinians faking behind Christianity, who keep going to communities telling these people they're Negroes and blacks, etc.
Islam.
And those are the ones the European hires to march all around the place. To the dead pledge, which is the mortgage, down to the straw man, which is the 14th Amendment, and these people lost their estate. So Drawley came to restore the truth about your nationality and your birthright. It's upon you to claim it. Now that they've hypothecated your estate, start acting like an heir and tell them what the swell you want. Bring me my stuff back.
That's right.
Islam.
And as far as the so-called processes are, the only way they can move that court, what they claim lawfully, they must have the original mortgage and the promissory note together. And anything they have about some kind of payment miss and stuff like that is irrelevant. They're not holder in due course. They have no claim. They're a third-party interloper, and it's your estate, and it's your signature on the promissory note. Who has right of claim? Who has right of claim?
We do in
How many people go to those venues and don't ask for that note? Most don't. Well, see, I don't have no payments, and you can't pay with a debt instrument. Not only that, those Federal Reserve notes are moved on a closed account. At what point, y'all don't get it? Anyway, thank you all for coming out to the House of Reawakening Mind. The Military Integrity of the Forum. Thanks, Abundance Child, for feeding us well. I didn't get nothing. I'm crying. I'm still cussing. Always leave me back. It's cold when I get to it. But anyway, love with y'all. Abundance Child, always make sure y'all eat well. And a man eats not by bread alone. Dr. Naila shares with her poetry, so you don't have to eat by bread alone. Give us one thing. Come on.
Give it to him.
No, yeah, I know.
She is like.
She's sleeping.
Naila was getting ready to read one of her poems from her famous book
She's
that
teepee.
everybody should have a copy of.
You know she's teepee.
Musings of an undercover writer. Dr. Naila doing it. Yeah. Besides, you gotta put her on the spot and stuff.
See how you trying to get her out of here. I can't read my Freestyle. Freestyle. Oh, there you are.
That's
MC did not. Oh, yeah. Saved it. Okay, I'm.
Got it.
Still table. Yeah. Everybody keeps it. We've heard everything. Everything is.
Look, it's, guess what? When it's good, let's do it again.
You got a freestyle. Freestyle.
You know how they say, what they say, need another ovation, another standing ovation?
Okay, I'm gonna read something this time. Encore.
Got something.
Okay.
You want to be on camera?
You know, hey, I say,
No.
good love deserves what, y'all? An encore. Go ahead, y'all.
Okay. Get some off our phone.
Yeah.
I won't let you.
Huh?